You
I'm
made
going to sit
it!
back a bit. Can you see me? I don't know if you can
Yes,
see.
I
I've also
can.
got a Pride lapel.
Oh, very good product placement. Thanks very
Yeah.
much.
Well, I thought for
I
Pride
appreciate
Month,
that.
it was a nice thing to wear. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been very busy doing lots of rainbows for Pride Month, which has been fab. So how are you? How's your morning been?
Good. I've been packaging some bits to send to the post office later and planning. It's because this is my second week of my son Noah being back at school for 5 days. I'm able to get into a bit more of a planning groove
Of a
than
rhythm.
combining with homeschooling. So
Yeah,
it's
I
just
can only
ticking,
imagine.
yeah, ticking things off the list. And yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me for this first of my new experiment, new series. I'm delighted to be doing this with you. I was just saying, I'm sure you saw that I'm not going to pretend we don't know each other. You're a very good friend. And I think we probably got to know each other a bit more when we did collaborate together on a project, which I will. Hello, Dandy Introvert. I've got a little sample here of, this is my gift wrap, which features illustrations from Hannah all over it, of various of different products that I have. So yeah, that was a really enjoyable way to bring our friendship and our creativity together. And so yeah, doing this with you is super, is brilliant to go into the first one.
Oh,
So
well, thank you.
I was just saying that your interview, your curious interview, which is still on the Wool and Water blog, was January 2018.
Wow.
How crazy is that?
That
And
is
that
really
was
crazy. That is
just
very
really
crazy.
as you had started to move away from just working in PR and start embracing and revealing to us all that you were this amazing illustrator.
Oh, thank you. No, I can definitely, for me, that was quite a marker in time doing your interview and the project together, because as you say, that was, it felt like me announcing to the world, or yeah, that I was
Yeah,
an illustrator. And so, and kind of having to own it. Whereas before I was definitely more a secret sketcher. Yeah, so it's crazy to think of things that have happened since that opportunity and because of that opportunity, and um, how I was thinking about it this morning actually as I was preparing for this, how things have changed. And I guess at that point, which I'm sure every creative person can relate to, that, you know, I was definitely dealing with a lot of voices in my head telling me that I shouldn't be doing this and people would think I was silly. And I think those voices still are there, but I'm better at just kind of focusing on the work. And I guess yeah, practicing not listening to those voices so intently, and focusing on creating, and I know that this is what I want to do, so I guess I
yeah.
have to, yeah, it's an ongoing journey, which, as I say, I'm sure all creative people can relate to, of
I
quieting
think they
that
do.
self-doubt.
I mean, I hear that, and I'm sure you do that. I think everyone, no matter what your creative space that you're trying to hold, I think everybody has those voices. Some people name
Yeah.
them, which I quite like.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they give them awful, horrible names so they can say thanks very much. I don't want
Karen.
to say anyone's name in case, yeah, yeah, Karen. That's pretty much a safe bad name, isn't it? So right now, so yeah, sometimes I think that helps, but yeah, I think it's a very common thing. So if we go sort of use January 18 as a little bit of a base, one of the first questions that I asked you in that interview was,
Yeah.
what are you curious about, and what are you curious about today?
So what am I curious about? I guess from the perspective of, for my illustration, I'm definitely massively inspired by nature, and in particular the seasons and seasonal living. And I think, I'm not even sure if I articulated it in the interview then, but it's definitely something that really has shaped what I choose to work on in terms of selling things in my shop and choosing inspiration. I feel that seasonal living is something that we can all use as a tool to emotionally connect with nature, and I think it helps. Connecting with the seasons helps connect to the story of the cycle of the year, and yeah, just I guess I believe, and this is completely my theory, no scientific facts behind it, but I believe that that to help the environment, we have to connect with nature more on an emotional level. And I think that we know all these statistics and facts about how we're living now is bad for the planet. And I think we know that, and we also know these practical things we can do to help that. But I think a large part that is missing is that kind of emotional connection of why we need to do these things. And so that's something I find is really important in trying to convey in my work or represent in my work and explore with my work, and find tools that help people connect to the seasons and the different energy of each season and the coziness of the colder months and the kind of freeness of the warmer months. And yeah, so that's something I guess is an ongoing curiosity of mine, to explore more into different ways you can live seasonally, how different plants change throughout the seasons. Yeah, and I think for me personally, that's definitely a massive way of me feeling more connected to the world around me, and yeah.
And have you always been curious about that? Like even as a child, were you curious about nature? And
I think I was definitely, yeah, I have been thinking about that more recently, like, was I? And I think I was definitely a child that enjoyed the smaller details of nature and like the little creatures, like little birds or little butterflies. I was definitely, when I was younger, a child who was into flower fairies and all of that stuff.
oh,
Yeah. And I can remember spending time in, like, you know, my mum and dad's garden, just under a tree, in my own little world. And I think also like the illustrators that I like from children's books at that time are because of how they represent nature and seasonal living, like people like Shirley Hughes or even Beatrix Potter, and they sort of capture the kind of essence of yeah, the different seasons and the story behind nature. So I guess, yeah, I was, but maybe it wasn't so, I wasn't so aware that,
yeah.
that
And
was
did you
something.
always draw as a child?
Yes, always drew. I think I've always drawn throughout my life. I've always had sketchbooks on the go, and I've got lots of them upstairs on my shelf now. It was just something I really enjoyed, and I think the great thing as a child is you put no pressure on what comes from that. And I see that now with my son Noah, that he just loves creating, and for him it's special, and there doesn't need to be something that it's for. It's just the enjoyment of creating, and it's good to remind ourselves that that's also what creativity is for, to enjoy doing it. And yeah, so I definitely have always drawn, and then I guess into my teens and sort of 20s was more almost, I guess it became a bit like a diary of drawing a bit like how my mood was. Or I had one of my jobs was on a reception desk, and I always had a sketchbook that I would be drawing as I answered the phones. And yeah, I guess I can't really remember a time of not wanting to draw or not.
And yet you didn't pursue it until later on in life. That I find that fascinates me, because when I first got to know you, for example, you were working in the creative industries, but you were sort of facilitating the creativity in a lot of ways. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, it was more as a producer or then PRing projects afterwards. I think it was a confidence thing, and not really feeling that what I did was good enough or had a place, that stopped me before. And I think then I just, in some ways though, seeing all these creative people really inspired me to then to want to do it, and
Yeah.
also seeing what is possible. And yeah, and I guess also maybe things like the online world, like Instagram and Etsy and things like that, kind of made it feel more possible. Whereas I guess before, illustration was a lot more traditional, going to agents and with your portfolio and being, so it was a bit sort of a maybe more daunting, but also a bit of a further place to get to, I guess, to start
Yeah,
doing
no,
it.
I
Whereas,
understand that for sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
these
we've now,
days,
there are so many tools to yeah, to take your own autonomy, I guess, over your creativity. And yeah, whether that's self-publishing a book or
yeah.
having print runs of cards in your case and prints. Yeah, no, I totally see that. And I mean, obviously you're curious about nature, and I would assume that you're inspired by nature as well.
Yeah.
And do they both directly impact your creativity, or do you ever find yourself sort of creating something that's, I don't know, do you ever find inspiration from something that you didn't expect at all, and then that brings out something else? Or do you
Um,
feel that it's the same I mean, nature's a pretty endless theme that you can.
yeah. Well, for example, I know that if I love going for walks in nature, and that's definitely when I feel the most inspired after that. And I think maybe just the act of feeling that you've got space, and the act of walking helps your mind kind of process maybe. So maybe it's sort of numerous things that make me feel inspired after a walk in
Yeah.
nature, or numerous
And do you take
influences.
photos of things that you see, or is it literally like imprints on your mind and then you come back and sketch it out? Or do you take a sketchbook often with you on the walks?
Yes, see, I haven't. I'm definitely someone that prefers sketching at home. I think the style that I have, I like kind of being able to do this sort of ink line and dots, and I just prefer doing that at my desk. So usually it is I take it is from taking photos, or but I think a lot of it for me is also like trying to capture the emotion or the atmosphere or the kind of feeling you have, from being
Which I
in
have to say,
nature.
I think you do really well in your illustrations. I always there's I guess the technique that you use, but there's a tactileness to them that I really enjoy. I recently got some of Hannah's cards for family birthdays, and I mean, even obviously you print on recycled card and you use seed paper envelopes, which is just gorgeous. But there's something about your illustration as well that's just, you kind of want to touch it, you know?
Oh,
So I do think you really capture that well, the tactileness of it. And in fact, that was why it was an obvious um, idea for me to approach you about the gift wrap paper. Actually, I've got some of your copies of some of the original illustrations.
oh,
So these were little
yeah.
copies that you sent me. I think we had a little meeting and you told me. So you can just really see the detail on the stitches is just, it just makes you want to feel it and squidge it, which was perfect.
Oh, no, I think
So
that's what I really enjoy doing that. Your pieces are so beautiful to draw, but I really love like the shapes and the texture. And I think that's something that I quite like, sort of diving into different, how everything has its own texture and nothing is a smooth surface, and yeah, yeah, trying to capture
yeah.
that with dots and shades and things.
Now I have to
Um,
ask you, you said how you get inspiration from walking through nature and just spending time in it. Got to ask, how did you deal with the kind of lockdown essentially? I mean, even though here in the Netherlands we weren't locked down as other countries were,
yeah.
but you obviously didn't have access to just be outside whenever you wanted.
No, well, I guess, and also I was with my son, yeah, like homeschooling. So
Yeah.
was a bit limiting to find space to myself as well. No, but what I started very early on, well, it's a practice that I've had for a while now, is going for morning walks. So that was something that I really tried to keep up, and I'm really lucky where I live that it's quite a sort of small, a small kind of residential area with little canals and trees, and those people that have been to Amsterdam know
Yeah,
what I
we're
mean. Very
very lucky.
cozy and a little bit kind of like a place where like plants are allowed to grow a little bit wilder and the weeds are allowed to grow and stuff. And so it felt like, although I was walking in my part of the city, I had contact to nature. And something I have to say that I really loved on the first, I think it must have been the first couple of weeks, was just the quietness and the stillness of the streets. And it was so quiet. I can remember seeing a little mouse run across the road, and I just thought you would never see that normally because they would be too scared to come out with all
Yeah,
the cars and everything. And I actually really found it, I mean, obviously I know it was in the
yeah.
context of a serious thing going on in the world, but I found that stillness something really kind of magical, and I hope that we can recapture that in some way for our lives moving forward, because I think it probably does, yeah, having that
Yeah, no,
peace
I,
and
I,
stillness.
I agree. It's there was a lot of space to still the mind, which yeah, I think a lot of people really benefited from it in many ways. Um, Now also I do know that what you started on your Instagram story at that time was sharing 5 moments of nature that you found peaceful and calming and wanted to share,
Yeah, I
which
think,
I love watching every day, and I'm delighted that you've continued it.
oh, thank you. No, it's something that has, I think a lot of people felt like this when we first went into lockdown, and there was a lot of kind of noise in the media, and people were feeling understandably fearful of what was going on. No one had ever been through a global pandemic before. And I felt, which again, I'm sure lots of creative people have, this need, I kind of wanted to offer something that could help, I guess, I don't know. And I really felt that these daily walks for me were just so helpful. And I
Hmm.
really do credit them for keeping me relatively calm and sort of grounded during quite a strange time. And also, you know, as a parent, trying to protect my son from this kind of unknown fear that we were all
Hmm.
feeling. So I just found it so beneficial, and I could see that lots of people were either not able to leave their house or were in more difficult situations where, yeah, they were vulnerable to the disease, to the virus, or, you know, everyone just had different reasons as to, or financially, it was a very sort of scary time
Yeah,
for lots of people.
there was a lot of noise going on for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just found that I wanted to try and offer something calming or peaceful that might help people just have at least a few moments of calm. And
Yeah.
it seemed, yeah, I got some really nice responses and people saying that they really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed it. And I think the act of doing that really made me pay even closer attention to kind of what I was actually seeing. And I guess going back to the seasonal living, you really can see, like, just in a matter of a couple of weeks, things look very different in nature. And it's
Yeah.
really nice to notice those little changes, and you sort of get, I found myself getting caught up in, yeah, feeling like emotionally connected to a little, oh, look, that flower's blooming, oh, that's exciting. And for me,
Yeah.
that it kind of was it was, yeah, something I enjoyed and felt like it was a small thing that I could try and offer um, back to others, I guess.
And do you feel like do you think it sort of focused your curiosity and creativity? I know you didn't have as much time to be creative, but do you feel like that quietness and that maybe more of a reliance on the thing that feeds your soul in a lot of ways? Do
Yeah.
you feel like you were do you feel like you were able to notice like even more, or were there aspects of it that you were thinking, right, I've got to bookmark this because I want when I get the creative space, I want to revisit this. I don't know whether that's plants or, as you say, like the progress of things blooming or not, or do you feel like actually it was pretty like consistent and it was nice to carry on with how you normally interact with the world?
I guess it was a more intense version because at that point our daily walk was kind of the activity of the day. So I guess it kind of really gave it more prominence, I suppose, in my day. So I definitely, it definitely did impact my, in a good way, influence my creativity and my inspiration. I guess it's hard to articulate how exactly that manifested,
Yeah.
but it for sure did, and I for sure felt. I guess it also made me think a lot about what am I contributing to the world, or what do I want the world to look like? How can I help that happen? And so maybe more bigger picture, like and I think lots of people maybe had that sort of moment during lockdown of just sort of contemplation of where are we going, how are we contributing to this. So I think there was a lot of kind of thought, or I definitely had a lot of kind of sort of long thinks about life.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean, like I think it definitely was a moment of contemplation and evaluation.
Yeah. I
That
think so.
maybe it's almost too early to sort of to know what the results of that are yet. I think that's probably going to continue
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, no, I think so. One of the other things that when I read back over your interview on the blog, you were talking about how you felt that slow living and, you know, connecting more with nature helped us as a society step away from a lot of the noise and the technology that we are, you know, that is part of our daily lives. Whereas, of course, during that period and kind of this period still, we are so much more dependent on technology. And that made me wonder about your own relationship with technology during it. Like, did you have more chats with people, or did you find that you actually were even sort of more conscious of how much technology you were using?
Yeah, I think I'm definitely someone that needs. I need a lot of quiet in my day, and I could definitely feel through social media. I can just remember that first period of lockdown, like everyone was talking about it, and you couldn't escape it in the news, and everyone, you know, was wanting to check up on their family, and which is all great. And I think I was doing exactly the same thing, but I definitely came to points where I just had to just step away. And I think that I mean, it's a tricky one, because I guess for me, especially, you know, how I sell my illustrations and stuff is reliant on technology, and
Yeah.
I think it's, and also how, you know, I use my phone to take my photos. How I connect with people, but so I definitely see the value in it, but I kind of am trying more and more to be more consciously stepping away, and not feeling like I need to capture everything on my phone, not feeling like I have to communicate all the time, and kind of try and be more present, if that makes sense, and just sort
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it's a bit like coming back to center a bit, and not, you know, not sort of taking in too much influence
Yeah,
from
for
the
sure.
outside
Yeah.
world so often. So I
And
guess in
and
that
did
respect, yeah.
were you one of the it seems very common that lots of people were suddenly talking more though with people, or did you hear from or reach out to people you hadn't spoken to for a while? Or, you know, I hear that a lot, that people were like, I'm going to call my, well, I actually did call a teacher from drama school who, you know, I haven't spoken
Oh,
to for years. So yeah, it was just because you suddenly had that quiet to
yeah.
think about other people and other things. And yeah, did you find you were having more conversation?
I think so. I was definitely reaching out. maybe more by messages than video calls. But I was definitely communicating for sure with people, and you know, I guess that feeling of wanting to check people are okay, and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, thinking back to it now, it just feels, in some ways, it feels so long ago, those first couple
I
of
know.
weeks, and it was really intense, but it was such a kind of strange period that I think we're probably still, yeah, as I said, I think we're still going to be digesting it for a while, how exactly it influenced us. And
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, I'm like suddenly now
No,
thinking back
no.
to that time, and it was like,
So I always think it's a
yeah.
sign of a good conversation for me if it's like, I'm going to think about that one. But and so I'm going to let you get back to your morning, and I very, very much appreciate you joining me for this.
Oh,
But
thank
I've got
you.
to ask, like, what is new for you creatively? What are you doing right now? What are you working on? What
So
have you?
yeah, I'm working back on my book, which I've been mentioning,
Hey!
the famous book that no one's seen yet. It's something that I'm working on, and I feel like it was very difficult for me to work on that when my son was in the house 24/7. So now he's back at school, I have some more time to, yeah, as I said, plan my time. So I'm scheduling that in more. I'm feeling quite excited, actually. Stuff that I did in the last couple of days, I'm feeling excited about it again, because it takes a while. I think, I don't know if you can relate to this as well, but sometimes when I step away, it takes me a while to get back into that kind of world, and the inspiration behind it all, and why I'm
Yes, I call it
kind of
procrastination.
sinking into the world again. So I needed a couple of days to kind of adjust, but now I'm kind of, yeah, in a place that I'm feeling excited about that. I am also approaching lots of shops about my greetings cards. So
Hey! Oh,
hopefully,
let's see. Hold them up.
I've got a few here, if I can hold them. So one of my Amsterdam
Oh,
houses.
yeah. This is one of the ones I recently got, and the
Yes.
watering can, and yeah, and this
The
is from your
Frida.
Frida Kahlo collection, right?
Yes. And
So people can find these on your that. Yeah, that one's beautiful. And I also have your succulent prints hanging above me here in the studio. So people can find you've got prints and cards, and you also do
zines.
zines.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Got a few.
and people can find those on your website.
Yes, so I have a
Yeah.
website which is in a link to it on my Instagram. I also sell on Etsy, which you can, on the menu bar of my website, you can find a link to my Etsy store. And the reason why I do that is just so it covers all the bases of how people like to pay.
Yeah.
And also, I'm selling large prints on a home store called Fi, which I will post. I will post a link to it maybe under this chat. But it's a great home store that sells lots of prints and furniture, and I'm one of the
Oh,
artists
wow.
that sells my work there, and that's kind of bigger format printing. Yeah, and then also I'm excited because I have part of my birthday present, or my birthday present was to participate in an online course called Telling Personal Stories Through Comics. And it's being taught
Oh,
by Gabrielle Bell, who's a female graphic novelist. And I'm really excited about that. That's in August. And so secretly behind the scenes, I'm dabbling in a bit of kind of comic stuff.
graphic novels. Wow.
Yeah, let's see what happens. But it's definitely, that's something I enjoy reading as well. And I think my style takes a lot of influence from the kind of shape and shading of graphic novels. So
And
yeah,
people can
let's see.
follow this sort of progress, this experimentation, all your creativity. Basically, is the best place to follow you on Instagram.
Yeah, on Instagram is where I'm most most regularly showing up. I do
Yeah.
have a Facebook page that I share more kind of shop news or links that I like, but Instagram is more my things that I see that are nice and my day-to-day news, and yeah,
Oh,
that's the best
brilliant.
place.
And that's of course where they can see your five nature moments, peaceful, calm,
Yes.
snapshots of nature. Yeah.
Every day,
Oh,
Monday
brilliant.
to Friday. Yes.
Well, I shall be sure to tag this. I'll be saving this now to the IGTV and
Thank
be sure
you.
to tag you in it.
Oh,
And
thank
thank you
you.
so much for joining me for this curious conversation.
Thank you. I hope I said some interesting stuff.
You absolutely did. You absolutely did. It was terrific.
No, it
Thank
was
you
really
so much.
lovely. It was so nice to see you as well. And like this top bottom format. Very nice.
All right. Well, I shall wish you a very good day. And yeah, I'll be tagging everything for everyone to be able to follow you and see your curiosity and your creativity and your inspiration on your Instagram. And
Thank you.
yeah, keep going.
Thanks.
Oh,
I'm looking forward to
just as I
watching.
do that, Indie Roller joins in,
Oh,
just as I shout out her mantra. All
um,
right. We'll say goodbye.
and I was about to say, I'm looking forward to watching the rest of the series of
Yeah,
these
so the next
conversations.
one after this, which thank you for helping me lead into that. The next one after this, next Thursday, is with artist Kim Haskins,
Oh, nice.
who is known as the Cat Lady. She paints the most incredible, also very tactile, textured. Don't be sorry, Leona. Textured, beautiful portraits of cats. So yeah, I'm
Oh, nice.
really. Again, she's her interviews on the blog, and equally, you know, everyone can have a look at your interview that is still on the blog, and the link's in my bio right now.
Okay.
And yeah, all right. Well, have a
Cool.
great evening.
Oh, thank you
Keep
so
it
much.
curious.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.